I can't believe they let an amateur like you step into the ring.
Every time you so much as open that cruddy pie hole of yours, all you do is prove to the world that you are the biggest dumbass alive.
Welcome, guys, to part 3 of What If Daryl Died Instead of Merle. Now, in the last episode, we covered Merle and Michonne going back to the prison without Daryl this time instead of without Merle. And Merle ultimately holding up the greatest resolve ever to not only make up for all his wrongdoing against Rick and everyone else in the group, but to combat the governor in a very smart and tactical way, and to really show that he had changed and avenge his brother above all. And we get to Rick and them showing up at Woodbury right before Milton was about to stab the governor. When the governor hears the gunshots at the gate, this stops Milton in his tracks and the governor out of his thinking, because he knew that Milton was going to not kill Andrea and come after him. And he wanted to kill Milton, or at least he didn't care if he did. But to hear Rick and them come here, he's like, he knows what's about to happen. He should have never let Merle live. He should have killed Rick. He should have killed Michonne. Killing Daryl, it wasn't enough. And he looks dead at Milton and says, they better not move from this room. Because if they try to escape, if they get out of this room or try to attack him or anything like that, he will make sure that not only will the people in their group die horribly more in death than Daryl, but they'll die just as worse. And he leaves. But do you think that Andrea and Milton are going to listen to this? Of course not! They're not going to listen to the governor. That would be utterly insane. Milton, in his quick thinking, albeit very injured still, but not stabbed fatally, cuts Andrea out of her bonds while the governor is outside, and he waits till that because he doesn't want to die. So, while they're doing that and the governor is in pursuit, Rick looks at Michonne and is like, we will take care of the soldiers. But he looks at her mainly when he says this because he knows that Michonne wants to and needs to go after the governor. And he's not throwing her to get killed by the governor, because he is confident in her ability that even if the governor is crazy and has already killed Daryl, he knows that Michonne can take care of herself. Because after all, she came close to killing him, stabbed out his eye, and got him to where he is now. And while that's a bad thing, he knows that if Michonne really tries, she can take him down. And Michonne, she's not going to think that Rick's throwing her under the bus, because Rick is confident in her abilities. And while it's still troubling, Michonne thanks Rick for this, and they both tell each other to be careful. And they go off. Meanwhile, the governor has gotten out of the room where Milton and Andrea are and is in pursuit of Rick, Michonne, and Merle mainly. Because everybody else in the group, they don't matter. These are the main 3 that need taken down. And the others, they can just follow after or just bend a knee to his whim. He doesn't care. Just in the middle of the street, Michonne and the governor are both pursuing each other without noticing it, and once they both turn a bend in the middle of the street, they both aim weapons right at each other when they whirl around a corner, surprising them both. The governor with his gun and Michonne with her blade. And this surprised them both because they weren't expecting this. They were expecting a fight, but this was very out there. And the governor is like, you made a big mistake coming here, Michonne. You should have killed me when you had the chance. Or I should have killed you when I had the chance. But you won't be as lucky as Daryl was to injure me. And you won't be as lucky last time when you got my eye removed. And explains like half of what she did to him. And Michonne doesn't care. She says, you're right. I should have killed you last time. But Andrea got in the way. This time, I know that she won't get in the way, because this is where you die. And the governor has heard enough. He shoots his gun, but Michonne, with a split-second reaction, manages to duck the bullet. And then, we get a little bit of a Destiny's twist, with her about to stab the governor in the other eye, like she did with Merle and T-Dog in Destiny's, but the governor already lost an eye, so that's obviously a big difference. And the governor is not going to be stupid here, because for one thing, he already lost an eye to Michonne. He knows how she operates with her sword and the way she fights. So, even though Michonne ducked the bullet and surprised him a little bit, he is not going to be stupid enough to allow her to do this, and promptly punches her in the face and then kicks her in the stomach very ruthlessly before she can even land the sword near his other eye. Michonne tries again and again, but the governor, more or less getting a few scratches, just keeps beating her down ruthlessly, and then aims his gun, and this time gets a correct firing shot straight at her arm, dropping her sword to the ground. And now, Michonne, still wanting to fight, mind you, she can't properly wield her sword or even get it while fighting the governor. This is like a Michonne and governor rematch that we never got, if you will. Sure, she ended up killing the governor season 4, but that was more or less just a just kill and not an actual rematch, so to speak. So you could consider this sort of a rematch, if you will. And the governor is like, I told you that this wouldn't be the same, but you went in all sword blazing and brought that little katana to a gunfight against me. That was your first and last mistake. And by the way, if you guys noticed, I'm using GIFs now in my videos. Just took me forever, especially with my phone, but yeah, I'm using them now in my videos. So yeah, that just shows you how much I'm moving up. Anyway, now the governor clutches Michonne's blade, and he is feeling really happy about this. This is essentially the governor getting Michonne's blade early, and he clutches the blade and says, now I'm going to do to you what you did to me, except I'm not going to stop. He raises the blade and is about to cut at Michonne when he is stabbed straight through the chest. Now, mind you, he's holding Michonne's blade, so she or someone else can't have that blade. And no one really else has another sword, so who stabbed him through the chest this time? It was Merle with his knife hand. He had seen Michonne and the governor fight right after the governor shot Michonne in the hand, and it alerted at least Merle and maybe a few others' attention. So this gave Merle the kill that he needed. And he raises his gun at the dying governor and says, you brought this upon yourself, Philip. You're the one who should have been watching your back. And you shouldn't have came after her first. You should have came after me. Because now, there's no stopping you dying. And there's no stopping me from putting an utter end to you and avenging my brother, Daryl Dixon. And he loads his gun and pow! The governor is no more. With that, Michonne, Merle more than Michonne. You could call this a collective kill, but I feel like Merle did way more in this situation. And with this, Andrea and Milton managed to get out of the room safely, just in time to see the governor getting shot in the head. And Rick and the other people that had went along with them, Glenn and Maggie and Carol, they reconvene too, and they look at Michonne, Rick mainly at Michonne, and them, and ask if they're all okay, seeing Andrea and Milton too. Michonne clutches her blade back into her holder and says, yeah, I had ran into the governor first, and you were wrong, Rick. He almost killed me, but Merle saved me, and they all look to the governor who has a blade wound in his stomach and a bullet in his head, just like his original counterpart, except way differently. And Merle is going to have much needed tension and stuff like that built off of him, avenging his brother by killing the governor. But as we all know, killing someone for revenge doesn't make things better, so of course he's always going to mourn Daryl. And Andrea, she looks over, thinking that they had won, but still, they hear Martinez and all the rest of the governor's soldiers rushing towards them because they had been alerted by the gunfire. And with this, they are all pried to Rick and everybody else's locations. And now, Martinez is staring over at Merle, Rick, and everybody else, guns in hand, seeing the governor on the ground, and asks them all, why should I not, or why should we not, kill you all right here and now? And Merle, he's not really going to be pried to getting threatened by Martinez and them, even if he was in their town before. If anything, they should be thanking them right now for ending the governor's tyrannical new rule. And Milton is even, snapped more out of his injuries to tell Martinez that they should not be mad at Merle and them. The governor had become a monster. Merle and everyone did them a favor. And they have proof if Martinez and them don't believe them. And Martinez and them, I don't think, would know about the governor's true ruthlessness until he killed all his men in the original. So Martinez just sits for a second and is like, you know what? Fine. If the governor really was a madman and everything like that, and you people weren't the bad guys, Milton, now you siding with them, and Merle being a traitor of Woodbury, then prove it to us. If you can prove it to us, we're not going to kill you, and we'll let you go or whatever. But, with the governor dead, I gotta take up the rule here of Woodbury, essentially. So if you guys are lying, there's nothing stopping us from putting bullets in all your heads, including Merle's, and Milton's, and Andrea's. And they all cock their guns while slowly starting to back off just in case they had proof, which of course they do. I mean, come on. And with this, Merle doesn't feel that he needs to explain anything to anybody because, literally, what more proof do you need? But then again, Martinez, Schumpert, and all of them besides Milton, they didn't know about the governor. Only the prison group, himself, and Milton knew about how crazy the governor was. So reluctantly, they kind of have to show proof, even if they don't want to. Otherwise, they're kind of gonna die here, let's be honest. And Rick has to unfortunately agree to this too, especially considering what Merle and Michonne just did for them. So, yeah, they kind of gotta go along with it too. And Rick would tell his side of the governor coming to attack the prison and the death of Daryl, and a little bit of what I feel Rick would say. And then Glenn and Maggie would tell their travails about the governor ordering Merle and a bunch of men to go after Michonne, and how it ultimately led to him and Maggie getting kidnapped by Merle, although it was mostly to his own doing of wanting to see his brother, and taking him to the governor, and the governor pretty much assaulting Maggie and almost killing Glenn. Then again, that was partly Merle, but he was then kind of told to, so it's not all Merle's fault. They're beginning to accept that now. And Carol would bring up Daryl in very big fashion, because once again, even if it's season 3, the end of season 3, Daryl still did a lot, especially when it came to the likes of Carol trying to look for Sophia and everything. She's going to bring that up a lot too. And then we would get everyone into the room, mainly Michonne, Merle, and Milton and Andrea, the ones who would mainly know about the room full of the tanks with the heads and everything like that. And I don't think that Penny would not be buried or burned at this point in time. It wouldn't be that long after she had been found out. But even if she wasn't there, I do feel that Michonne and Andrea and Milton would explain in good enough fashion even if she wasn't there, about the governor and how sick he was and everything like that, and how that he was less of a man after he lost that supposed alive version of Penny. And Andrea was like, she wants to know something. So basically, the whole time she was, being lovey with the governor, and she'll admit more of that now, Glenn and Maggie were kidnapped? And Glenn and Maggie were like, they didn't even know until after the whole Woodbury thing and the fight that Andrea was there in the first place. If they had known, they could have rescued her even earlier and they wouldn't have had to go through all of this stuff. It could have been easier. But yeah, that's pretty much it in a nutshell. The governor was crazy even before he lost his eye and his supposed alive daughter. And Milton was a test to this in great value because he had been with the governor pretty much since the start, along with several others, but Milton in much bigger fashion, and had known the governor beforehand before he became like the man that he did. And he really didn't think he would ever become that, and says he's the one who burned the walkers in the pits and everything because he just wanted it over. He wanted the governor to become the man that he was, but even he knew that he was likely just going to make the governor angry. And he's lucky that Rick and everybody showed up. Otherwise, the governor would have killed him, and Andrea most likely would have died too. Even though that's exactly what happened in the original story. And Merle would just be kind of annoyed at this point for two reasons. Number one, them having to explain all this when it should have very clearly been in front of their faces. Two, the fact that all of this happened without half the people, not just the Woodbury people, knowing about it. So he'd be kind of annoyed at this, but they have to do it, and they did. Andrea would also attest to the fact of being very sorry that, for one thing, she didn't know about Glenn and Maggie. Number two, that she didn't kill the governor in his sleep when she had the chance, because she'll admit now, since the governor's dead, Carol told her to, and everything, and Carol would fess up to this because they have no reason to hide it. And Andrew would just be like, she tried to change things, and she wanted the governor, just like Milton, to go back to the man she saw when her and Michonne were rescued. But as they have all agreed, the governor was crazy even before he lost his eye. So it's really just came down to like how things played out. But then everything happened the way it did, and she ultimately came to a decision, especially after right now. Things ultimately went the way they should have. True, Daryl died in the end, and that's the real only major sacrifice. But she thinks that out of his death came something really good besides Merle learning how to change his ways and them arriving in the nick of time to save her and Milton. She ultimately turns to the people and then turns to her people and Merle specifically and says to everybody, besides Daryl's great sacrifice and Merle learning how to change his ways, she thinks that Merle is the ultimate fit to lead Woodbury. And Merle and everybody would be very surprised by this, but I think Merle, while being surprised by this, would actually accept this. And it would be out there, sure, because let's face it, we've never really seen Merle as a leader type in any way, shape, or form, especially in my stories, but let's face it, I don't think that Merle would truly argue this, especially now, to truly change himself. And he says that while he never expected himself to be a leader, he does agree for Daryl, for everyone in Woodbury, to change his ways for himself and for Rick and everyone they've lost. Him leading Woodbury is the best thing that they can do. And ultimately, if anyone wants to, buff this new rule, go right ahead. But this is the start of a new governor. Merle, the governor of Woodbury. And every everyone would actually very much be on point by this. Not only because they liked Merle before, but especially after hearing all about the governor now, especially Martinez and them, nobody's going to argue this. And with that, Merle is anointed the true governor and leader of Woodbury at this time. Now, what's going to happen with the story further? Will Merle's leadership ultimately lead to the villains in the future being nothing? Or do you think that Woodbury being intact in the prison and all these changes might actually mean that we get way more trouble than good, especially without Daryl? And that's where we leave things for the moment. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time.
Look on the bright side. At least you're gonna get beat by a real team.
If you press me again, you a dead man.